We've got buzzer beaters in New York, the Warriors' first consecutive loss of the season, and AllStar Voting first returns on today's Friday edition of Locked On NBA. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code NBA, or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy made easy.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we got a great show for you today. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. However you may be listening, YouTube, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Adam, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's a little slate of games tonight. A very short slate.
Little short 4-game slate. We're going to get to those. We're going to get into who we think can climb from the All-Star fan voting by next week's returns. But let's jump right in. We start today in New York, where the Knicks came back from 25 points down to beat the Celtics 108-105. And this game got wild. Evan Fournier, a career-high 41 points. And then Emmanuel Quickley's runner gives the Knicks their first lead of the game with 45 seconds left. Then Jason Tatum, 8 seconds left, scores on a pull-up jumper to get the last of his 36 points. But wait, the Knicks get the ball back, and RJ Barrett, who hadn't been shooting the ball well to that point, takes it to the bing bong bank. He banks in a three at the buzzer to give the Knicks the comeback win. The Celtics dropped to 2-11 in games decided within 5 points on the season. Adam, what do you make of this wild finish at MSG?
Well, first of all, Wes, that was A+ rundown right there. I love that one. This was a great game. 10 out of 10. Fantastic game. It had a little bit of everything. And you phrased it as the Knicks came back from 24 down. No, the Celtics blew a 24-point lead. This is what happened. And it is the theme of the Celtics season, a miserable season for them, blowing big leads and losing close, tight games. I believe they now move to 2-11 in games decided by 5 points or less. A horrendous and frightening number. And I think this might have been the game that, and just reading the timeline tonight, that broke the backs of Celtics fans. I'm reading the timeline tonight. Celtics fans not doing well, in large part because this just felt so indicative of the season and so repetitive. They've been there. But the story for me, you talked about you come back from 24 down. There were so many big performances and big plays and big moments. Evan Fournier, 41 points.
Unbelievable.
But shatters his previous career high. I had to look this up because I was so amazed. Steve Nash's career high, 42 points. Chris Paul's career high, 43. Evan Fournier, 41. He almost tied these two Hall of Famers in points tonight, and the Knicks needed every single one of them. He gets 10 3-pointers. It was an incredible performance.
And it wasn't just like, all right, hit that shot. It's wide open for you. Hit the three. Maybe you got the hot hand tonight. He was hitting fall-away threes from the corner off of inbounds passes. It was wild what he was doing. And I don't know. There's some people out there, scientists, people who know things, that say like the hot hand doesn't exist. It's just like an average thing. And the hot hand exists. Just I present you as this as evidence of the hot hand existing. There's no other explanation for it. Evan Fournier, like wasn't the other night the Knicks were on the weren't they on the second night of back-to-back, or was that Boston? One of these two teams were on the second night of back-to-back. But the Knicks, like, they needed Evan Fournier tonight because you weren't getting a great performance from RJ Barrett. Julius Randle was, Emmanuel Quickley didn't start off great, but he was big in that third quarter run that they had going into that fourth quarter. So the Knicks used a 21-3 run to get back into that game. I do want to go back to the Celtics a little bit, though, because you're absolutely right. This is just, if this is the thing that breaks the Celtics fans back, I mean, I get it, man. That was hard to watch, that Celtics team. Jason Tatum was awesome, 36 points. There were too many possessions in that fourth quarter where he was not touching the ball. And it was Dennis Schroeder had a really bad turnover in the last 45 seconds of that game, just driving into the paint with absolutely no plan whatsoever, gets tangled up, kind of stumbles, loses the ball. Knicks get the ball back. The Knicks were missing free throws at the end, but Boston, they just couldn't pounce on anything. And I thought Tatum had an awesome game. He had absolutely no help from Schroeder, Jaylen Brown, anybody.
Right. And the shot he hit, this is why it was sort of a double backbreaker, because not only do you blow the 24-point lead, Boston actually had to come back. They lose the lead with 2 minutes to go. They fall behind a little bit, and they rally back to tie it, as you mentioned, with a Tatum, a great move, by the way, nice little step back move, elbow jumper. And so they actually tied the game, and you think, okay, disaster avoided. Let's send this thing to overtime, only to lose it once again. But I'm with you. I'm always interested in teams that their best player, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to have the requisite respect of his teammates. And I'm not saying Tatum does. I don't know the personal dynamics there, but you're right. It was very clear that this was Tatum's night, that he was the guy that was going to, get you out of the mess that you got yourself into. And they just didn't go to him nearly enough, in my opinion, down the stretch.
He got outscored by Evan Fournier. I mean, he could have scored 50 tonight the way he was playing. I really thought that. I don't know. And then you look at some of the comments made by Ime Udoka after the game, and he says, that the Celtics need a calming presence to slow us down and get us what we want down the stretch. Talking about those fourth quarter issues that they have had. We've mentioned the 2-11 record in games, within 5 points. Right. They have the fourth worst net rating in the league. They're getting outscored by 7.7 points per 100 possessions here in the fourth quarter. Again, fourth worst in the NBA. Other words, not good. And you hear this kind of talk from the head coach, a calming presence to slow us down and get us what we want. And I just can't help but think that's kind of what Jaylen Brown was trying to do. But his teammates weren't getting the ball as much as they should. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
The NBA is so interesting because coaches have such a fine line to walk. He might be right in those comments, but if you're making those comments halfway through your rookie season, it's probably a bad sign. We've seen, by the way, Chauncey Billups making similar comments in Portland where it's like, hey, when are guys going to give full effort? Why aren't guys playing as hard? If you're making those comments your rookie season like that, I don't know if you have the clout for that. And unfortunately, he's in the position right now. I think people that keep only one eye on the NBA will be surprised to hear this. The Celtics are not in the playoffs. They're not in the play-in. Right now, they are a lottery team sitting at 11th in the Eastern Conference. And that's just such a shock, I think, given what the expectations were this season. Afterwards, also, you mentioned a comment. Here's one from Jason Tatum that is shocking. He says, in the grand scheme of things, I look back at those years when we were going to the conference finals, and it makes you really appreciate those moments because it's hard. It's not easy. Early in my rookie year, I thought it was normal. Wes, we have a 23-year-old reminiscing about the good old days. This is wild.
Yeah, it's like that Wire quote. They're the old days because they're the old days. Right. It's not coming back. In other words, because it doesn't come back in the Wire. I don't know that it ends the same way for Jason Tatum. And
it almost reminds me, to be honest, of Dan Marino, who same thing. I think goes to a Super Bowl his rookie season and then never makes
sophomore
it back.
season.
Sophomore season and then never makes it back. When I read that, I almost thought of that. When you come into the league and you have instant success, you think, oh, okay, this is how it works. And it's like, no, it's actually really rare to go to a conference finals, let alone, advance past the first round.
There's so many ways to take that, but I look at everything, what Tatum was talking about, what Udoka was talking about, and I'm just like, is Boston a Ben Simmons trade partner? Like, really, though, now? I know we kind of thrown that out there a little bit, but wouldn't somebody out there who really just doesn't want to shoot, would love to get a great scorer involved? Jaylen Brown wasn't really – I know he's coming out for like a 50-point game or whatever it was like a week ago or whatever. But I don't know. Like, if you got to shake something up,
right? That's
a way to shake it up. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Well, this is now the 58th consecutive Friday show that I've talked about Ben Simmons. So I get the punch card there. But it is appropriate. You're right. Last week on this show, this exact thing was brought up actually with John Corrales, host of Locked On Celtics, filling in for you last week. And I threw out there that, hey, I don't know that Daryl Morey is this idiot or, that what's going to happen is Ben Simmons' value is going down. I think he looks around and he goes, one of these teams, Portland, the Celtics, Toronto, somebody is going to look at their team and say, it's time for a shakeup. It's time for a big move. And then they get desperate. And there's so many teams right now, even Atlanta, you could look at right now and say, wow, they thought they were on this upward trajectory. They're not. Are one of those teams going to blink first and then make the big package?
All right, let's move on. Coming up, the Warriors.
Well, hold up. One last note for that, Wes. Guess the next game for the New York Knicks, in Boston. They have a rematch on Saturday. The NBA's done this thing where they're doing these like home and aways basically.
Right.
And I love it because this game is definitely one that I'm glad I only have to wait 48 hours for the sequel.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen is Boston's going to blow out the Knicks and everything we were just talking about. Like, oh yeah, they're fine now, because that's how this NBA season has worked.
Right.
Let's move on to our last few games of the night. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy made easy, and easy is really what they are all about. As fantasy props and pick'ems get more popular, Prize Picks is making it easy for you to get involved. They do that with the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, offering more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. This includes the Prize Picks Power Play. Here's how it works. Predict the over-under on a player's fantasy production, and you can win up to 10x on any entry. It's just you versus the projected fantasy totals. If you're a total sports junkie, Prize Picks even allows mixed sports entries. For example, you can take the over on Steph Curry's points combined with the under on Patrick Mahomes' passing yards in the same entry. And when you use the promo code NBA, you'll get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Again, use that promo code NBA. It's all you got to do. Do it all using the award-winning app on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Plus, PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use that promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility. Believe me, this podcast started selling out. I don't even remember, Adam, like some of the early ads that we were selling, not a whole lot of them. And now we're selling great products like McDonald's and Shopify and Prize Picks and Built Bar. And we're not stopping there because success is a million milestones on a forever evolving path. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources to make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Like mine, Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale. Reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. Gain insights as you grow with a detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond. More than a store, Shopify grows with you. This is possibility powered with Shopify. Go to shopify.com/lockedonnba, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Shopify.com/lockedonnba. Right now, Shopify.com/lockedonnba. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Let's go to the rest of our games and start in New Orleans, where the Pelicans snap a 3-game losing streak with a 101-96 win over the shorthanded Golden State Warriors. This marks the Warriors' first consecutive loss of the season. Came on a night they were without Steph Curry, who was ruled out with a sore left quad, also without Draymond Green, who was held out with a sore hip on the second night of a back-to-back. Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, they couldn't push the Warriors past the goal line, but while the Pelicans were led by Brandon Ingram, who finished with 32 points, the Pelicans nearly gave this game away, Adam.
They did nearly give it away, and you know, the Pelicans are not a good team. I last week I think I had upgraded them to a good bad team. I think they're back. I think they got downgraded to a regular bad team again. they're very volatile right now. Their stock is very volatile. They did almost give it away just with a couple of really bad. I mean, they're a young team. They made some young mistakes down the stretch. But the guy I have to mention to kind of give a shout out here, Herb Jones, maybe one of my favorite players of this entire season. Like the biggest surprise: 13.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals. The guy is a defensive lockdown.
I have in my notes here Adam's favorite player, Herb Jones. I have that in my notes here.
It's a weekly occurrence, isn't it? I always have to shout out my guy. He's incredible, though. Tonight he was
weekly as the Ben Simmons stuff.
Yeah, suffocating defensively.
Yeah.
And here's a cool stat for you, Wes. I mean, maybe it's a cool stat. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. I think one of my favorite things about this season is that people keep throwing out these stats. They have so many wins against teams above 500 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, who was playing that night? We don't know. Like, the Nuggets beat the Warriors that night. They had nobody healthy. Like, it just happened. Who knows how these records go? But the Pelicans, they made a move about halfway through the season. They started Devontae Graham, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas. That starting lineup is 8-5. It's a small sample size, but you know what? For a team that's not very good, they have seemed to have found this 5-man unit that clicks.
Yeah, and it's a unit that also ranks pretty high in net rating and all these things as well. And I was looking at that either today or yesterday. I was like, oh wow, that's actually something that works for them. Why don't they just do that all the time? And I guess the answer is because you can't, and it's hard to do in this season. But yeah, I think the Pelicans are weird. They're definitely weird. And look, they don't beat the Warriors if Steph or Draymond. Probably if either one of those guys were playing, and the Warriors were on the second night of it back to get back in New Orleans, which is usually a tough place to travel into. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know why Steph and Dre didn't play tonight?
It was a sore left quad for Steph and a sore hip for Draymond.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was
see, I seem to have thought it was because Klay Thompson is making his return on Sunday. And this was that proverbial, we're taking 3 days off. We got a big celebration coming up on Sunday. And when you have such a big game like that, you make sure, you know what? Let's all rest up. We're going to get ready for this party. We're going to have a great time. I honestly believe, I'm sure those injuries really did occur, but I think this was one of those ones where it's like, hey, we need to build in some rest. Sunday's going to be a party. Let's kind of reset on that date.
I think you're right, and maybe even they hang out in New Orleans for a morning, go get some beignets at Cafe Du Monde, hang out for a little bit, and then take off on the plane. You got 3 days. You can run those beignets off.
Are you excited? By the way, are you excited for this? I think Sunday, the Warriors are one of these teams that transcends the NBA right now. I mean, they're that big, and rightfully so. I'm a guy that hates the big market, like gets all the coverage, but that's a team that they are like the Beatles. And Klay Thompson's return, to me, it really is maybe the single biggest event so far this season.
I'm really excited. As you know, I covered the Warriors for a couple of years, and I really had to chronicle this Klay Thompson stuff. And I was there when, at Chase Center, we were doing like a draft thing the day that Klay Thompson tore his Achilles in Orange County, and just the way that just had such a crazy ripple effect on that entire organization. And who doesn't like to watch Klay Thompson play? I mean, there's nobody, like, everybody loves to watch Klay play. No, everybody wants him to be healthy. And this is why I was always cool in the break. Some people are like, oh yeah, maybe he'll come back by the Christmas game. I was like, that's not going to happen. I'm not even sure where that report came from. It came from ESPN. I'm not really sure why it came from ESPN. I never, in my reporting, did that ever occur as a real thing. It was always January. They always were going to do it at home. So I was always looking at mid-January once the schedule came out. And I think the best thing that they could do is make sure that he's healthy. And it sounds like everything is leading in that direction, that at the end of the day, they want him to be healthy, because if it's a difference between a couple of weeks, he's already been out for 2 years. What's 2 more weeks? Just make sure he's ready to go 100% healthy. Sounds like he's going to be, and I hope he is, because again, one of the most joyful players to watch in the league. So I'm super excited. Let's go to Phoenix, where the Suns take care of business against the Clippers, earning a 106-89 win and holding on to the best record in the NBA on a night that the Warriors lost. But they didn't hold on to an early 19-point lead. The Clippers using a 10-2 run in the fourth quarter to cut the lead to 3 with 8 minutes and 36 seconds left. But then Chris Paul did what Chris Paul does and picked apart LA's defense, found teammates, helped the Suns get back a double-digit cushion, and then pull away. This on a night without DeAndre Ayton, without Jay Crowder, who are both in this kind of influx area. They're out of protocols, but they're doing this conditioning since being in protocols, so they weren't able to play. The Clippers were also obviously without Paul George. They were led by Marcus Morris's 26 points. But Adam, your thoughts on the Suns winning on a night that the Warriors lost, now distancing themselves for the top seed in the West?
Well, my thought here, you mentioned that they didn't have DeAndre Ayton. Who needs DeAndre Ayton when you have Jalen Smith, who's been absolutely fantastic in Ayton's absence? Over his last couple of games, 19 points, 12 points. Tonight he grabs 19 again, seems to be his number. He has a couple double-doubles spliced in there. Did he get a double-double tonight? He did, 14 boards. So 19 and 14 for the youngin. He's really been a great. It's funny, they obviously signed Bismack Biyombo and gave him a deal for the rest of the year. The Ayton's a great player. This is going to sound ridiculous. I'm actually joking about him being better than DeAndre Ayton. But it is interesting to me that you cycle through different bigs. JaVale McGee having a career year. Bismack Biyombo looks great. Then Jalen Smith comes in. It does seem like whoever you place in there just fits in nicely and does a very limited role at a very high level.
Yeah, and this coming from a guy in Jalen Smith who couldn't get minutes in the finals when they needed a backup big, and
Right.
now something's happened here where he's able to produce. Um, Maybe it's Chris Paul, maybe it's the leadership, maybe it's just the fact that DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee are good, and
For sure.
and
All
now
of
that
these
and
things are
maybe.
true.
But the most important thing, all the things you say about Jalen Smith are absolutely correct. But bringing the goggles back, I love the look. It's retro. It's throwback. It's something that the
So
NBA
true.
needs more of. I don't know. Like you had two players in this game with goggles between him and Reggie Jackson. I mean, I don't.
That's right. This was a throwback, man.
It was.
You're absolutely right about that. The other guy that
It's a good.
deserves a shout out from this game, though, is Cam Johnson.
Mhm.
9 of 14, 4-7 from three. He goes 24.7 rebounds. And he's had a bit of I don't want to call it a breakout because it's not quite a breakout, but he really is playing his best basketball over the last, 5, 6, 7 games, whatever it's been. And he's another. This is how you know they have a great culture there in Phoenix. All these young guys just keep getting better and better every single game. And every time you slide a new player in, they play great as well.
Yeah, and you gotta give credit to Monty Williams and Chris Paul and everything that they're doing over there. But yeah, and I mentioned distancing themselves from the Warriors now. It's not a whole lot of distance. It can be undone within a week. A bad week for the Suns, a good week for the Warriors. We'll see what it looks like when Klay comes back. But as we kind of nudge past the midway point of the season now, this distance starts to matter a little bit more, and it's something that when we're talking about seeding and all that kind of stuff, it's all I'm saying is something to start paying a little bit more attention to than we did even a few weeks ago. Let's wrap it up in Memphis. Ja Morant, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists as the Grizzlies coasted to a 118-88 win over the Pistons, earning their 7th straight win. Pitching in for the Grizz, Dylan Brooks finished with 18 points, and Tyus Jones and rookie Zaire Williams added 14 points apiece. It's the longest win streak of the season for Memphis. They have also had 2 different 5-game winning streaks earlier in the season. Adam, what do you think about it?
I'm upgrading the Memphis Grizzlies. They are now in the bottom of tier 2 out west. You've got the Warriors and the Suns. Then you got the second tier that's got Utah, and I've now got Memphis up there. Look,
Wow.
this team is good. I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but I also mean it. This is a team that I'm like, okay, they're the upstart. They're playing above themselves. They're doing this. We're halfway through the season. I think they're making the leap, and I think they are legitimately not a contender because I don't see them going, deep into the playoffs. But I think they're a team now that deserves that home court advantage in the first round, and I would, at this point, be surprised if they didn't have it.
You look at the distance between them and everybody beneath them. We talk about the distance and seeding mattering. It's
Right.
getting to a point where it's going to be hard for them to lose the 4th seed. It's going to be hard for them to
Right.
lose home court. Now, injuries and stuff, obviously, that can happen. But as long as they're healthy and Ja Morant keeps playing at this level, and now we're seeing all the Derrick Rose comparisons and stuff like that, and I'm fine. Whatever comparison you want to use, this dude's awesome. And you
Yeah.
can't stop him when he's on a roll. And he's on a roll a lot lately. And I don't know that this role is going to stop for Ja Morant. And they've just got a bunch of complementary players. They don't really have any bad players in that rotation. In fact, they probably have too much depth in certain spots. And maybe this is a team that could make a 2-for-1 type deal at the trade deadline. But I don't think they should rush anything. They're still really young. They're awesome. I agree with you. They're in tier 2. I have them in tier 2 alone. To me, they're their own tier. I still have
Okay.
Utah in that top tier. I'm
That's
a little
fair.
bit higher on them than you are, but
That's fair.
we've had that conversation. But yeah, I think like tier 2 is Memphis. That's the
Yeah.
tier. But they
They're a
deserve.
legitimately good team that you look at it. I mean, I think before you thought, well, if they get matched up with the Lakers or Dallas or Denver, the Clippers, okay, they're going to be underdogs. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to be underdogs in a playoff series. They might just be, with how the season is broken. I think they might just be one of the better teams. And you mentioned a trade. I'm not even sure they need that. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But they are three straight losses right when Ja Morant came back. That's what's separating them right now from like an 18-game winning streak. This is a team that's for real.
And now they've got their longest win streak of the season. Remember, there was a little bit of, are they better without John Morant and stuff? Like nobody was really asking that. It was more of a straw man thing, I think. But they now have a longer win streak than they did before John Morant, and he's playing at an all-star level, which we're going to talk about next. The first returns of the fan vote for the All-Star game is in. We'll tell you who has the best chance to climb in the fan voting over the next few weeks next. But first, let's talk about our friends at Built Bar. It's a new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than some candy bars. And Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you're going to want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which could be chalky, waxy, tastes like a chemical spill, you want to eat healthy, but it can get boring. By like week 3, you might be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bar is covered in 100% real chocolate. And most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and packed with 17 grams of protein. You compare that to a candy bar that's usually around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs. It's a no-brainer. Here's an idea for the new year. Go to your secret treat stash at home, in the pantry, in the office, the car, wherever you keep it. We know you got it. Throw out all the sugary or calorie-filled treats and then just replace them with a box of Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes great. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. That way, when you enjoy a delicious Built Bar, you can almost count it as a workout, I guess. There's some logic there. There's so many flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, so much more. In fact, Built Bar is always coming out with new and exciting limited time flavors. So check out built.com often to see what's up. Offer is at built.com. Use the promo code and get 15% off on your order. Again, use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, every Friday here on Locked on NBA, we count down to the weekend, and today we're taking a look at the first returns of the All-Star Game fan vote and predicting who could climb in the voting and potentially be named starters by the time fan votes are finalized or get closer to being naming a starter. So let's start with who the starter spots are as of today. So in the East, we have DeMar DeRozan and James Harden in the backcourt. Then we have Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Joel Embiid in the front court. Then in the West, we have Steph and Luka. That's your backcourt. Then we have LeBron, Nikola Jokic, Paul George. That's your front court. Adam, first, which of those 10 do you think maybe is the most vulnerable to losing his spot?
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, Luka, if you just look at the vote totals, has the lowest vote total, but I actually think he's a guy that might climb a little bit just because he's been injured. Dallas has kind of been like in that pile of teams that have been shuffling back and forth. Maybe Dallas starts to pull away. But I'll still say Luka just based on where the votes are.
Yeah. I think Luka's fine because you also have great competition behind him between Donovan Mitchell and some other Ja Morant, who we were just talking about.
Right.
I'm gonna go James Harden. I just think that Trae Young kind of deserves that
Ooh,
spot in my mind, and he's
interesting.
another guy that I have marked down as a climber. But I think Harden's ground could be a little shaky, and if Kyrie Irving, I know he's only playing road games, but if he starts, I don't know, maybe getting a little bit more shine than Harden, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
The voting is all weird. Like when you look
it
at some
is.
of this voting, as you just can't tell. I will say my two big surprises though from the early returns, DeMar DeRozan being the number one guard vote getter surprised me. I mean, he deserves it.
Yeah.
I just am surprised that voters usually I pick voters will pick the same handful of guys. But I was pleasantly surprised to see him get that much shine. And then secondly, Nikola Jokic, my guy, being number two, only behind LeBron James's front court players, was pretty shocking to me. It just shows you what the MVP award does to your sort of Q score. Like,
Yeah.
in years past, he's been a guy that's always been sort of undervalued by voters. Now he's getting vaulted up really high.
Yeah, I hate using the word narrative, but I'm going to use it here. And it kind of feels like the nobody appreciates Nikola Jokic and Nikola
Right.
Jokic doesn't get enough attention is almost sort of immediate. I think people know who Nikola Jokic is,
This is
especially
true.
now that he's won the MVP. I guess you would have more insight to this than I would, but I don't really think people are like overlooking Nikola Jokic. I
Yeah,
actually feel like we talk about him so much, and
strong opinion.
oftentimes the topic is, oh, he's so overlooked. And at some point, when you talk about a guy being overlooked all the time, he's like not overlooked anymore. I don't know.
Mike Conley had this for years. I mean, it was 10 years into the league. He's the most underrated player. That's like, okay, he's not underrated if we all agree. I think Jokic has that. Although I will say, twice the ESPN broadcast on Wednesday called him Djokovic. So there's still a little bit of difficulty getting his
Yeah,
name right, even though it's two syllables, both phonetic English sounds. So it's a little surprising.
Giannis still gets it too. I don't get it. All right, let's do the 5 guys who we think could climb in fan votes by the time this thing closes in a few weeks. The first one I got.
Is this number 5? Are you going in reverse order?
I'm going in no order. I just picked 5 guys.
Oh, okay.
I could put an order together real
Yeah,
quick.
put an order. You have to understand it's power rankings, Wes. This is
You're right.
power rankings.
This is my first time doing it. I'm messing it up already. All right. Number 5. I feel like we need like a sound effect. Does this work?
A little drum roll.
Oh.
How was very Christmassy.
I don't know. I'm playing with sounds here. This is great. This is great radio.
All right, crickets. There we go.
First one I have is Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Because he's the lowest right now in the fan vote. It's actually pretty incredible how low he is in the fan vote. This is a guy who has fewer votes than Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
In the front court, fewer votes than a guy, Klay Thompson, who hasn't played in 2 years. And Rudy Gobert deserves to be a starter in the Western Conference, and it's not even close in my mind. I know that some people would say maybe put Draymond Green in there, but in my mind, it's LeBron, it's Jokic, and it's Gobert. You can have 2 centers in the starting front court. There's no rules against it. They're just front court players. This is what you get. You want to get 3 forwards in there? Maybe some years. This year, you deserve to have 2 centers in there. It should be Jokic. It should be Gobert. He's, to me, Utah fans, however many of there are you, because now I'm doubting it because between him and Donovan Mitchell.
True. That's a good point.
Where you at?
Where are you
Salt
at?
Lake City. Where you at? You got to vote for your guys here. I mean, Rudy Gobert should be a starter here. It shouldn't even be a question.
Rudy Gobert definitely is, the most maybe undervalued by fans or underappreciated. And I get it. I don't, honestly, like I'm a well-known. I think Rudy Gobert is fantastic. I just don't enjoy watching him play. And I wonder if there's a little bit of that. Is he an all-star player that guys are like, ooh, I want to see him, pair him with, Luka and Steph Curry, have him set some nice screens. I don't know if people are really into that. So that might be part of it. But he absolutely deserves it. He's in the COVID protocols, by the way, and it's noteworthy because he was, of course, the first player to test positive 2 years ago when this whole thing began. He's now entering them for a second time. But the reason I agree with you on him as a top 5 guy is because I think the Utah Jazz, you look at their schedule, it gets very favorable in the back half. They might be one of these teams that nobody's talking about right now. When you talk about standings, they might find themselves fighting for that 1 seed here in very short order.
Yeah, and that's why the next guy I have is Donovan Mitchell, his teammate. Again, you look at the guards here. You got Steph and Luka, very deserving of being the starters. No issue with that. John Morant can push that. But the fact that Donovan Mitchell, with the numbers that he is putting up, he's been awesome. He's obviously a great scorer.
Player
The
of the
advanced
month.
stats are starting to love him. Go ahead.
Player of the month for December. He's coming
Player
right
of
up
the
on
month. Starting to get even hotter than what he was, but he's behind Klay Thompson, who again hasn't played. Devin Booker, who we'll talk about. Chris Paul. I mean, I just feel like Donovan Mitchell should be getting so much more love here, and that's why I have him here at 4th because he's so low in that guard hierarchy right now. There's just a lot more room for opportunity, I think, is sort of my logic.
He definitely, like Gobert, deserves up there. I mean, Utah, getting the whatever the opposite of a bump is, the Utah drag. But this is the opportunity. They are on a 3-game road trip coming up, so they're going to play this stretch without Gobert, all on the road. This is an opportunity if he can get them wins at Toronto, at Indiana, at Detroit, and maybe even launch them into that 1 seed by then. They're only 2 games back right now in the loss column of the 1 seed. Like I said, if they get into that conversation, you have to pick somebody from Utah, and I think Donovan Mitchell's the more popular player, so it'll be him.
My next one's Devin Booker, again in that guard group in the West. It's a loaded group, but this is just a matter of Devin Booker being somehow behind Klay Thompson. I don't get it. I know that Warriors fans are out there. They're a very popular team. They want to kind of jokingly vote for their guy, I guess. Maybe the logic is that, hey, Klay's going to play before the All-Star game, so he should be in it. No, he shouldn't. Devin Booker is having a career year. I know that, his field goal percentage isn't necessarily what it was. The scoring numbers aren't necessarily what they were. But he's made it the last couple of years till All-Star game. I mean, I think he's got a shot, like a real argument at being maybe a starter here. Because when you watch the games, he's been better than he's ever been. He's more complete. He's competing defensively more than he ever has. The advanced numbers are starting to favor him even more than Chris Paul in some instances, depending on the metrics that you're looking at. I think Devin Booker can make a run too, especially when you have Phoenix starting to get healthy here. and making a push maybe into that All-Star break.
The only reason I disagree with you is because I would go the other way. Chris Paul. I think Phoenix deserves somebody, to get a little bit more recognition. But to me, this team is Chris Paul. I know Devin Booker's awesome. He's more capable of the high-scoring outputs. But you saw even tonight.
Yeah.
When push comes to shove, who is it that carries him home? It's always Chris Paul. But either one of those guys, I definitely think gets the bump.
Jalen Smith, maybe?
Maybe my guy, Jalen Smith.
All right, let's go to the Eastern Conference. Trae Young is the next guy, and I almost had him here at number 1, but I have a rant that I want to go on, so I'm just saving that for number 1, and that was my logic. But Trae Young, I think, deserves to be a starter in the East, and I really don't even think it's all that close. You look at his numbers: 3rd in the league in scoring, 3rd in the league in assists. He's been awesome. I know he's not playing right now; he's in protocols, but the fact that he's behind James Harden, he's only about 30,000 votes behind. There's a realistic chance here that Trae Young could overcome James Harden and end up being a starter. Like, of all the guys that we're talking about, I think he has the best chance to actually become a starter.
I mean, his last game, he dropped 56 points in a loss. That's kind of highlight your point here, if it's just kind of how his season has gone. It would be interesting to me, Wes, if James Harden, Kyrie Irving, if those guys don't make an all-star team, obviously as starters, which they'd like, but if some of these accolades, if they don't make it, I just wonder if that would damage some of this super. That is sometimes the price you pay when you kind of create these super teams, and it'd be interesting to see if that, how those dynamics would play out.
Well, Kyrie has no business being in the All-Star game. He's played 1 game. He's 6th in the East in voting in the backcourt, over Derrick Rose, Tyler Hero, Darius Garland, and Fred VanVleet, which Van Vliet, I almost considered putting on this list. I don't think he has a realistic chance of getting as a starter, but he should be over all those other guys. Like, he should be over Irving, over Derrick Rose, over Tyler Hero, over Darius Garland. No question.
I agree. He should be over for sure. I mean, Derrick Rose, there's a lot of names on here. Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose. There's some weird names that pop up. I don't understand.
Marcus Aldridge.
Where
are all these Brooklyn fans coming from, and why are they putting all their weight behind LaMarcus Aldridge?
That is really weird. I didn't know Aldridge had stands.
I didn't know either. Speaking of stands, all right. So here's the thing that I don't like about the fan vote is you get these little campaigns that are started on social media. Hey, let's push our guy. Yeah. And my number 1 climber here is Draymond Green, and I'll tell you why. He is 5th in the front court in the Western Conference. I think he has I think it should be LeBron, Jokic, and Gobert, but you could make a real argument that Draymond Green should maybe take Gobert's spot if you want.
I agree.
It's a fair argument to make. But the fact that he is, 240,000 votes behind his teammate, Andrew Wiggins. I understand Warriors fans want Wiggins in the All-Star game. I don't know why. I just understand that they do, but they really desperately want Wiggins in this All-Star game. And it's coming at a price of Draymond Green a little bit. I feel like they've taken their guy, Draymond, a little bit for granted here. You got to give the votes to Draymond Green. I think of anybody, he has a real shot. I mean, he's an all-star lock, no doubt about it. If he doesn't make it as a starter, the coaches will vote him in, no question. I don't know that that's the case for Andrew Wiggins. So maybe if that's why you're a Warriors fan, you're trying to push Wiggins over the goal line there and make him a starter. There's no way that's happening. It's not just fan votes. You still got 25% of the media, 25% of the coach players. Not happening with Wiggins, but I don't understand this Wiggins campaign. I just don't get it.
It is a really weird campaign. I got to say, Draymond Green is he's one of my favorite players, not just of this era, but of all time. And here's what's interesting. Steph Curry, highest vote getter. Then you get Andrew Wiggins up there. The Klay Thompson, who hadn't even played a game, is up there. Draymond Green, who is easily that team's second best player, behind Steph Curry. And really, I look at the Curry Draymond almost as a pairing. Curry's great, but it really is him with Draymond that really unlocks everything. But he just doesn't seem to care. Like, he's one of very few players. Like, I think if you asked him, would you like to be a starter in the All-Star game? He'd say, yeah, I would. Of course, I want that recognition. But he's not like a lot of these guys who are coming out and just complaining and campaigning and talking all this. He knows where he's at. And he's probably happy for Andrew Wiggins. That Andrew Wiggins is getting the shine. And I just love that about him. He's so massively underrated, both as a talent and as a leader. And this is leadership of him, the way he, the way he seems unbothered by this stuff. So I love that call. Draymond Green should be higher. I don't know if he will be, though. I don't know if he will.
This is what I'm saying. Warriors fans, I know you guys. I understand that when you put your weight behind something, you can really make something happen on social media. I
True.
get it. But give up on the Andrew Wiggins thing. It doesn't matter. Get your weight behind Draymond Green. Push him over the top. Push him over Paul George. Like Rudy Gobert has a far way to get. I think he ought to be a starter, but he's coming for he's got a long ways to go. And I know that these tallies can add up real quick the way that this voting works, but you have an opportunity to get Draymond Green in the starting group. It's
When
not going
does
to
the
happen for
voting
Andrew
close?
Wiggins.
Do you
Go
know
Draymond.
when does it close? Is it? It's not. We got a couple more weeks, right?
We have a couple more weeks
So
for the fans.
Klay Thompson, it looks like, is going to come back on Sunday in the Bay against Cleveland. Cleveland, a very good team. So, but I think that game, obviously, I really expect the Warriors to win. You go on the road at Memphis, at Milwaukee, at Chicago, at Minnesota. That's a tough 4-game road trip. If you get Klay Thompson back and the Warriors manage to go undefeated in that stretch, then you get a slew of home games against a bunch of the league's bottom of the barrel, Houston and Detroit. Look, you go on a win streak that gets you winning 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, and you're going up against the league's best teams. Look, Draymond's going to climb in the standings. The Warriors are going to get everybody's adoration and attention even more than they already have it. And then you get the whole team starting in the All-Star game.
Again. All right, that'll do it for us today. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On NBA wherever you listen to podcasts for 30 minutes of the NBA's top stories every day. You can find me over at Locked On Heat and Adam over at Locked On Nuggets. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. It's free. It's available on all platforms. Thanks for joining me, Adam.